I would just like to preface that this is a video about my personal experiences with Persona 4 and why I love it so much, and there will be heavy spoilers, so if you haven't played the game yet, I suggest you don't watch the video, but that is of your own volition, and you can watch at your own discretion, and hopefully you enjoy it. Thank you. To say I use video games as a way of escaping is an understatement. Not to say that my life is extremely hard, but I feel like I can say that all of us need to escape from our problems in current life sometimes through the use of media or other things. It was almost 4 years ago since my first playthrough of Persona 4, which means at the time I was 16, and I played the game in the midst of the pandemic, when the world was locked up in their homes and bored to death. But to alleviate that, some of us watched TV, read books, and played games. My good friend recommended me a game that was recently re-released on PC. It was called Persona 4 Golden. I really enjoyed the idea of mixing life sim and dungeon crawling, further also combating themes of self-confrontation and acceptance. I came in with high expectations that were met. The characters, music, murder mystery story, and gameplay, I wouldn't change a thing. From start to finish, meeting the gang, when we went on the trip with everyone, singing at Junes, and solving the mystery, and I even got to play the game on the New Year's event whilst it was my 17th birthday. Once I finished the game, I realized that the worst part of it was that it ended. All the characters say their goodbyes, knowing everything we've done was for the better of Inaba, and that the time we shared won't end here. Recently, I completed all the achievements for Persona 4 Golden after I 100%ed Persona 5 Royal, which was really easy. And this prompted me to 100% all the previous Persona games that I've already played. Replaying Persona 4 while visiting the same areas that I first experienced back in the midst of the pandemic. With this playthrough though, I was reminded of how Inaba is as a place. How it's like a second home. The characters that live here, that solve the mystery with me and grow with me felt just as real. Further, how it hasn't changed. Not to say that I would expect a video game to directly change except for the randomly generated dungeons, but more in the sense of, like I said before, it's like using a time machine and living my old life once again. This playthrough in all rekindled my love for the franchise, but more importantly, Persona 4 as a game. I grew up with this game in my teenage years, and like the characters, I was still figuring stuff out. And it's crazy to think that I was lucky to play a game like this at such an impactful time in my life. I love Persona 4 and all that it's done for me, and Persona 4 hasn't changed, but I have, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without Persona 4. On my first playthrough, a lot of the characters left a good impression on me, but it took some time for others to really grow on me. Dojima and Nanako I liked from the start. Their family dynamic was hard to see at the start, but with context we see a father that was just trying his best for himself and his daughter, and Nanako just trying to be there for her father and being forced to grow up faster because of their situation. Next up is Chie and Yukiko, who also had a nice dynamic, being childhood friends, with one being an upbeat tomboy and the other a shy feminine girl. In my opinion though, I didn't like Chie that much at first. Her personality was a little bit too energetic for me, and her social link in my opinion is one of the weakest in the game. But during my second playthrough, she became a little bit less annoying and I started to see her good sides. Yukiko was the quiet girl in the friendship, and her social link was very well done, as the feeling of wanting to run away from given duties and to start your own life instead of being held down by family lineage is a good theme. While it isn't as relatable to me as it could be for others, I still found it to be great and helped the character really grow on me. Next up was the boy, the partner, Yosuke Hanamura. Yosuke was at the start a gag character, but with the first time going into the TV, we see him become so much more. A guy that just wants to be noticed and stop living a boring life in the countryside. Of course someone would feel sad that the person they liked died, but knowing that you could be linked to solving the case is exciting. It's normal, and that's what makes him so much more real. Not to mention the notion of Saki, the girl he liked, ending up hating him. This scene, in all, really made me appreciate that they were going in depth with these characters, and it made me like Yosuke much more than I would have if they didn't go in depth on this. In all, he served as a great introduction to Persona 4's main themes of self-confrontation and acceptance, and personally, his social link is on a tier of its own and really served as a way to bring him to be one of my favorites in the entire game. Rise, from the start, was built up to be a sex symbol, but I knew that she meant way more than that. The themes of the loss of identity and what it means to be you with so many versions of yourself are good because they are technically part of the human condition. Now, what I mean when I say the human condition, as it can mean many things, is that most of us go through these problems as we have many versions of ourselves that we put on for others or that we do to protect ourselves. To see her grow and learn to accept herself as being many versions of herself and not just one part was very good, and overall helped with me really enjoying her social link and her as a character. She was also a great addition to the party, as she is literally the best character in the game. You think Fuka's good? Oh, hell nah.
She gives the heal, the charge. Futaba ain't got shit.
And Teddy was Teddy. Honestly, I don't know why people hate him so much. I mean, his puns are funny, but he's overall a good addition to the party, and I never had a problem with him. Except for when he tries to rizz up everyone. Naoto was, you know. Overall, a great character, and my first romance option. Her personality was great, and don't get me started on the Christmas and Valentine scenes. But back to what I was saying. Due to her struggles of being a woman in a male-dominated profession was interesting and cool to see. And like Kanji, her acceptance of being a strong woman that doesn't care about the discrimination she gets because of her being a woman is empowering and a great addition to the game's themes of self-acceptance. Adachi was a great character whose values and philosophies perfectly opposed the group and were human. What I mean is that everyone can become Adachi with the wrong buttons pushed, and that's what makes him great. Like Akechi and Joker from Persona 5, Adachi and Yuna Arakami are two sides of a coin. One who connected with others and used the power of bonds to push forward relentlessly, and the other who relied on themselves since they thought the world had forsaken them and abandoned them. This is also shown in Adachi's persona being Magetsu Izanagi, which is just Izanagi fused with anger. Adachi, in all, is my second favorite character in this game, as he's a perfect villain for this game and is a perfect rejection of the game's core themes. And then there's Marie. Come on, skip. Come on, I want to fuse. And finally, Kanji. Undoubtedly my favorite character in the entire game and series, and is one of my favorite characters of all time. His dungeon's my favorite, his social link's my favorite in the game too. His first entrance with the gag scenes, his evolution as a character, and understanding of his father's dead words, and his becoming a man that he can be proud of is one of the best things I've seen, not just in games, but in any medium. Further, Kanji holds the moment in the game that made me love it, and helped me start to accept myself for who I am. Being a teenager, I always wanted to grow up and speed up my life, to become a grown-up. I didn't place a lot of value on the time I spent with my friends, and later in my high school life, I kind of became reclusive due to this fact. To be honest, I was scared of the outcomes, bad or good. At that age, I didn't understand this and pushed people away for quick gratifications, and denied myself opportunities for success just because I was afraid. This is why Persona 4's themes of self-discovery and confrontation with the truth stood out to me. Seeing Kanji deal with his sexuality, though I'm not gay, but more importantly his manhood and acceptance of himself, were touching to me. We learn more later in his social link about why he is the way he is, but I want to focus on the scene in the shower house. Kanji's shadow, like every other character's shadow, is an exaggeration of their deep secrets. With Kanji questioning his sexuality and the combined judgment of his childhood due to his feminine hobbies like knitting, making dolls, and clothes. Further, the butterflies he gets when he talks to Naoto Shirogane, who at the time in the game we acknowledge as a man. These combined factors make Kanji believe that he lacks manly qualities. Due to this, he sees himself as lesser. We see Kanji overcompensate for his lack of manliness by fighting loud biker gangs, which he says is for his mom, but okay Kanji. He dyes his hair blonde and even wears his jacket on his shoulders to show his typical delinquent style and attitude, pretty much using his design as a way to build a preconception of him. So when he's forced to accept that he's self-conscious about his manliness, which gets more context in the social link, which is him wanting to live up to his dying father's words, he's at first off put due to the sheer weirdness of his shadow. I mean, no offense, but look at this guy. Eventually, he accepts himself. Though the reality is that Kanji is afraid of getting rejected. That's what stood out to me. All my life, I've dreaded that fear that I've done the same things that he's done. It was shocking that a video game could encapsulate my feelings perfectly. To be honest, it was startling. But just like Kanji, these problems are a part of him, and for all of us to grow, we need to accept the shadow in all of us.
Come on, get up. Anyone who looks like me, I know they ain't so weak that they can't take a punch. I already know that you're me. You're me. And I'm you, damn it.
As a city kid in Canada, I've never lived in the countryside, but I've always found Inaba calming. The fact that you could walk to the grocery store and on the way see people you know, how all your friends would live near you, and for me, Inaba was like a second home. These opportunities for me were alien, and after playing the game over 4 times now, I got used to the town. Inaba is inspired by the Japanese city of Fufuki, and just from pictures, it feels as though I would know my way around. This city was a great choice since it just has that countryside feeling that often anime opt for to build a nostalgic feeling. And obviously it worked for me because I miss Samegawa River area where we would walk to school and have Yosuke talk to us and tell us about how he was feeling about the case or about homework. And always seeing that girl with the fake Adidas bag. Up with everyone at Junes to have some steak and talk about the case. Or getting home from school and talking to Nanako and Dojima, talking to the very, very suspicious gas attendant at the central shopping district. These places were imprinted into my head, and this comes back to my love for Persona 4. The way the game uses the areas to not only enhance the realism, but also the story. After a second playthrough, you can spot things like Namatame always being around in the central shopping district, or how Adachi always somehow runs into us. Overall, the city of Yasuo is a great setting for this game, but it's really enhanced by the great OST that accompanies it. Start off, I'm no music nerd or specialist, but one of the biggest contributing factors to the realistic feeling of Persona 4 is its OST. From whenever you finish school on a sunny day and you're met with your affection, or getting home after a long day and listening to Signs of Love. These songs obviously create associations in your brain and start to associate the music with the areas in the game. Songs that really help the associations are Smile and Like a Dream Come True. Smile plays during the social links, and its somber but happy tone helps it feel like you and the character you're talking to are connecting. It feels like you are helping them understand their shortcomings, but at the same time, you are further growing from their experiences for yourself. Hence, the happy tone insinuates that the hope that we share to become better people and further the theme of creating bonds. Like a Dream Come True plays during most of the cutscenes, and this song helps heighten the atmosphere of the situation. While the characters are in the midst of solving a crime, they as a group find comfort in solving the mystery and the time that they're sharing together. This song encompasses these feelings perfectly, as it brings the themes of friendship and nostalgia, as these times are only for a moment and feel like a dream come true. Reverie is my personal favorite song in the OST, and you should definitely listen to the reincarnation version by PSC. It's great. But back to what I was saying, this song plays during the higher ranks of the social links, and is used to set a sad tone for the situations. This song to me is one of a kind. The looming hi-hats, the piano that comes with it are all just perfect. Not to sound cringe, but the song feels like a hug. It's like someone's telling you to just let everything go, and that's why it's a perfect fit for the social links. Some other great songs in the OST are I'll Face Myself, which plays during the major boss battles and when the characters are accepting their shadows. Another good one is Snowflakes, which plays during the last couple months of the game and is a great bittersweet song that shows that the game is ending soon, but the lyrics don't make it sad. They make it as we are all approaching a new future, and that yes, things have to end, but it wasn't for nothing. Finally, Nevermore is the final song that's played in the game with vocals from Hirata Shihiko, and is a bittersweet ending that displays the character's sadness from the main protag leaving Inaba. Further, that we're all going to see each other again, and that this journey wasn't for nothing. With the combination of the anime cutscene and this song, it creates a perfect nostalgic tear-jerking scene that we all know and love.
Distance doesn't matter to us! Even if we're separated, we're still friends!
While I've grown up as a person and I'm learning to live in my own skin through self-improvement, I still yearn to re-experience my teenage years once again. Not to say I'm old, being only 19 and barely an adult, but playing Persona 4 again has made me realize just how much I miss the trivial problems I had as a teenager, whether it was worrying about tests, if a girl liked me, or getting into fights with friends. At that time, that was my life, and it felt so much bigger, but now there's such minuscule things that have happened in the past. With me now going on to university, I'm scared to really not live up to my own expectations, as I feel like I'm placing a lot of stress on myself, as I feel like I can't really do it and I'm not really worthy of it. I feel like a lot of us place a lot of importance on achievements and productivity, but personally for me, it's almost everything. But this mindset really started once I hit college, as I started to value my studies more and more and tried my best and felt like my value depended on my grades. Further, in my life, I've always found that I haven't been productive and that I've wasted my time, and I've always wanted to make video essays ever since I was in high school, but only took the time in my last semester, where I made one on the show Welcome to the NHK, but to say it was bad is kind of an understatement. And still, it's been 3 years. How come I haven't made a new one? How come I haven't written anything down? I have so many ideas and I just can't get them onto a paper? Are you kidding me? Overall, this mindset of me wasting my time was detrimental to my way of thinking, as just because I didn't succeed or was too scared to do something I actually wanted to do would mean that I was lesser. This is exactly how you evade improvement, and by playing Persona 4 again and reliving my teenage life, it's made me realize that I have to accept this part of myself. Maybe I might not be good enough. For God's sakes, I might suck, but that doesn't mean that I shouldn't try. And I would give anything to go back to these years when my problems were so little, but now I realize that I can't. And like Naoto, Kanji, Yosuke, Teddy, Yukiko, Chie, and Rise, I have to face myself and accept the stage that I am in my life, as this is the only way that I and everyone else can grow as people. For this area of the video, I'm going to be discussing my favorite social links and how the characters grow, and how they've helped me grow as a person. The guilt Dojima feels as a husband, and more importantly as a father, is due to his mission of finding the killer of his wife, Chisato. And in the family dynamic, she was the person who would take care of Nanako and be able to stay home and do all the motherly duties. With Chisato's death, the roles have been switched and tasks have been split, whereas now, Nanako has to cook and clean, and Dojima has to spend time with Nanako instead of worrying about work. Dojima's social link is about his helplessness in this situation, and how his obsession is destroying the one thing he wishes to protect. With Dojima's anger of not being able to find his wife's killer, he deems himself unworthy of being a father to Nanako and of being able to take over Chisato's job. With this, Dojima distances himself from always being at work to run away, or being too tired to do anything with Nanako. These two reasons coincide with his obsession of solving his own case, as he's always being called to work to either work on his personal case or the murder mystery case. Over time, through family bonding of the protagonist and Dojima, he starts to see him, Nanako, and the protag as a family. In each social link, we show Dojima that he's allowed to be a father, and that he shouldn't run away from his problems by crowding himself with work so he doesn't have to face his family. Dojima's social link in all is about overcoming his wife's death, but more importantly, about saving his relationship with his daughter and being a detective that will keep his town and his family safe. I've always been fond of Dojima's social link because it reminded me of my relationship with my father, as both of us never knew how to open up to each other and express our feelings. And my dad would always be at work, and I never had much of a chance to grow a strong relationship with him at the time. But over time, we've grown a great relationship. Not just that, but Dojima's personality scarily resembles my father's, so it might be biased, but this link will always have a special place in my heart due to this reason. He always wanted to be someone special, and in general, and when given the power persona, it gave him a false sense of security. Now, he could be a hero, someone special, and rather than doing it for the greater good, he became infatuated with the idea that he was different from the norm, that he was chosen to wield the power to show the truth. Yosuke, as we learn throughout his social link, becomes jealous of the main protagonist due to his wildcard power, but more importantly, leadership skills and dependability. Yosuke always wanted to be depended on, cared for, and missed. This feeling is made from a combination of Saki Konishi's death and Yosuke's own loneliness, as Saki Konishi was a very important person to Yosuke, as when he first moved to Inaba, she was one of the first people to not treat him as a pest, to not associate his existence with Junez, and though we get context later in the TV world that she hated him and despised his family business Junez for causing problems in her family, and further, for thinking that she had feelings for him. I want to consider Yosuke's third link, where he talks about keeping his old phone and not wanting to get a new one. This stood out to me because he explains that what if his old friends reach out to him, but that he lacks the confidence to do it himself? This shows that Yosuke is afraid of change and of being alone. He wants to change, but is scared that he'll get judged and that he feels that he has no control when it's pretty much out of his own volition. And this moment really shows his loneliness. Yosuke as a person puts on a happy facade because of the yearning for people's attention, for people to like him, and later in his link, he realizes that he doesn't always need to give people this fake mask, and that he should be himself with the people who truly understand him, and when the time is right, that he shouldn't take people's shit just because of the opportunity of them seeing him as a friend or more. As his link progresses, we see Yosuke grow. He learns that just living every day means that you're special to someone. Your parents, your friends, these people care about you, and that he himself should care about himself because you are one of a kind. Yosuke learns that he's just as special as the player, but more importantly, that they're equal. Parents are parents, and you are you. This line stood out as this was said by Saki Konishi to comfort Yosuke, but as we know, she hates him. But even still, he comes to the consensus that even if she didn't mean these words, they still helped him.
I always wanted to be special. I thought my life would finally have meaning if I was special to someone. That's why I was really excited when I got my persona. But I really didn't need it. It's not what you have or what you can do. Just being born, living your life. Before you know it, you're already special to someone.
I feel as though it's part of the human condition, God, I've been saying that a lot, to feel loneliness or to yearn to be special, and I remember many times in my life when I've switched my mask to model what certain people wanted in friends, and I think that a lot of people can relate. Yosuke's social link to me was great due to its relatability, and personally, it put into perspective that I'm me, and that the only thing that can change me is me, and I shouldn't have to change myself for others. Kanji always believed that strength meant doing what needed to be done, like a man. He always believed that it was easy until he was met with what it means to be a man. Kanji was bullied in the past for his hobbies and likes. Since he grew up in a textile shop, of course it would be natural for him to enjoy stuff like knitting, making clothes, and dolls. And Kanji enjoyed these things more than doing the stereotypical male hobbies, like playing sports with bugs or getting into fights. This was weird for the kids around him, which was what they used as a way to bully him. Kanji, after his acceptance, is open to wanting to see who he truly is and understand himself, as after the acceptance, he feels as if he should try to figure out the most important lesson that he's been taught in his life, what it means to be a man. Due to his past actions of beating up biker gangs to help his mother get better sleep, and changing his looks to insinuate his manliness to everyone, he often gets in trouble. We see this in the first part of his link, as to even access it, we're told by a girl that she thinks that Kanji is part of a gang of people doing bad things. Another example is in Kanji's second link when we see a cop pestering him. These scenes are important, and especially in the second link, we see Kanji want to apologize to the town and himself by being a better person, since he's caused a lot of trouble for the town. And back to the example of the cop pestering him in this link, we see that a lot of people have already preconceptions of him and aren't willing to see him change. In his third link, we see Kanji deeply cares for his mother, and we're told after he gets mad at her for getting misinformed that she was in the hospital, that his father sadly passed away. This builds that Kanji is obviously afraid of losing another family member, and that he has a deep connection with his mother. Kanji expresses later in his fourth link his want to be small rather than big, as his design implies. Kanji, as I mentioned before, is supposed to be intimidating to show his wanting to be strong. This link, however, says the opposite and mentions how he just wants to be understood instead of having to tell everyone straight up that he isn't a scary person, and that deep down he just wants to be helpful to others and to not stick out like a sore thumb anymore. Further, in this link we're introduced to the young boy who helps Kanji build his acceptance of his quirks. Kanji knits dolls for the young boy and his friends due to the fact that he sees himself in the young boy and doesn't want him to struggle the same ways that he did as a child. Further, this shows Kanji's kindness without him knowing, coinciding with his views of strength by doing what he thinks needs to be done. In his next link, we see Kanji give the boy his promised dolls, but goes beyond and gives him more than promised, showing just how much Kanji loves to make dolls. Kanji admittedly shows embarrassment, but is met with the young boy neither being disgusted nor being weirded out, but rather finding it cool. Kanji's search for acceptance is shown here, as his not being denied shows him not being afraid anymore to show his real self. In his seventh link, Kanji gives more dolls to the kid, but more importantly comes with the consensus that being strong isn't easy, and that he thought that solving the case would somehow make him more of a man due to his philosophy of doing what needed to be done. He's grown so much, and it's shown by his desire to give back to his mother in his own way, in Kanji's way. Kanji's eighth link is where we see his acceptance of himself take charge, as when he's interrogated by the cops about the gang that they thought he was a part of in his first links, but when the young boy comes to ask him for more dolls, the cops are weirded out that the thought that Kanji, a person with such a rough exterior, a loud and brash person, can create dolls for children. It's hard to believe, but Kanji fully admits that he makes dolls without a care that he might be judged or mocked, which catches the cops off guard. Further, his mother comes in to tell the cops that she believes her son would never do these acts and states that he may be stupid and short-tempered, but he's a strong and gentle child. This catches Kanji off guard, and when they all leave, he starts to tear up. He's fully accepted the soft part of him, and no longer rejects the part that just wants to be accepted. Kanji's ninth link is about him talking about going to see his father's grave, and how he felt like he could finally face him since he could finally face himself. The lesson Kanji learned was his father's dying words of, "If you're a man, you have to become strong." The misconception of this was that Kanji felt like his dad was telling him that he wasn't a real man. That's why he opted to change his looks and push people away, fighting gangs and keeping his mom safe to become strong. But all that did was run away from the true meaning of his dad's words. Kanji learns that he writes his own story and that he shouldn't let others define him. To search and understand what it is to be a man, be true to yourself and stand by your principles and the things that make you you. And finally, that being a man isn't about stereotypes of playing sports, beating up people, and protecting women, and so on. It's about being you.
Just been throwing in the towel all this time. Of course no one could understand me. I've been keeping my distance out of fear. So I decided that I'd do things my way, no matter how tough. But it ain't just about hanging out with guys who understand you and telling the rest to get bent. You gotta make an effort if you want people to understand you. I wasn't even trying. Not just about my hobby, but like when the police suspected me. It didn't even cross my mind to try to tell them my story. I let them think whatever they want. And because of that, you, Ma, and that kid all got dragged into it. I didn't put in the slightest effort to try and make them understand. It's easier for me to act tough. So from now on, I got 2 rules. Rule 1, be myself. Rule 2, get people to understand me.
Kanji undoubtedly has my favorite social link in the game, because I feel like this is a struggle that most men go through, not specifically dealing with liking feminine things, but that could be something, but more so finding their own definition of being strong, and most importantly, a good man. My father always told me that being a man meant that you can provide for not only yourself, but for others, and due to his background of being an immigrant, this made sense, but for me, it was off. I can't deny the logic of being able to provide for a family, but being strong is what I felt I needed, and like Kanji, I would always get into fights and try to act tough in my younger years, but as I grew, I started to figure out that I shouldn't try to overcompensate and instead work on myself. Personally, I still haven't found out what it means to be a man for myself, but when the time comes, hopefully I can look back on my journey and be proud of myself, just like Kanji. Like Dojima, Daisuke runs away from his problems by using his passion, and Daisuke at the start of his link is made to seem like the stereotypical jock sports player, and these stereotypes are important to Daisuke's character as they barely apply to him. Daisuke is afraid of girls, but more so afraid of connections, but we'll get onto this later. One of the first times we see Daisuke show his fear and evade the archetypes of a jock is when he's confronted by the girls that Ko was talking about at Aya's, and he brushes them off rudely, or when Ai joins the soccer team as the manager. The team members go on and on about how hot she is, but when Daisuke is prompted, he says,
Girls annoy me.
his teammates make it seem as if he's too popular to care for girls like her because he already gets so much attention. These scenes, and the second in particular, show how he just puts on a mask. He can't open up to people because they already have a preconception of him based on the stereotypes, and like Kanji, never asks why or what made him feel this way. Daisuke pretends to be someone else, because people won't go the extra mile to find out the real him. This is also perpetuated by the fact that he feels objectified by the women who ask him out, as they don't know the real him and wouldn't even try to get to know the real him. They just want the Daisuke everyone thinks they know. They want a fake. We learn later in his link, when talking to Ko about Daisuke's past, is that he once had a girlfriend who broke up with him because she believed that he didn't love her. This is because Daisuke never made any move, or never even tried to hold her hand. Rank 8 shows us that Daisuke is afraid to get rejected by showing a person his real self, and that he's scared of reaching a standstill in soccer and feels like he's half-assing his whole life. Daisuke later explains that girls ask him out and don't understand him because of his lack of touch, and eventually they get disappointed and leave him. These girls are forcing their preconceptions on Daisuke, which in turn is hindering him as a person, since no matter how much he can try to show his real self, he will never be good enough, since they don't want that Daisuke in the first place. You're not the guy I thought you were. The real Daisuke is on the field. He feels like he's disappointing these girls by not living up to their expectations, and that of course he liked his first girlfriend. She was his first. He was ecstatic. In Daisuke's final ranks, we see him talk to his ex-girlfriend to get out what he needs to say. He finds out that she's dating a senior on the soccer team, which does hurt him, but that wasn't the point of him talking to her. It was to prove that he did in fact have feelings for her, and that he's not an archetype, but a unique person. No longer would he run away from himself, and no longer would he be half-assing life. Daisuke could finally become comfortable with himself, the real Daisuke. I love this link because of how real it feels. Using the stereotype of a brawn over brain soccer player and making him someone that plays a role and is scared of positive attention from the opposite sex is interesting and rare, and that's what makes it unique and an overall great social link. Personally, I've only had one relationship in my life, and I feel like it failed due to the same reasons as Daisuke. To say the type of person I was in high school was a guy with a lot of friends, played sports like basketball, and tried to be as popular as I could be since I didn't want to end up being isolated and bullied like I was in elementary school. To continue, this girl had preconceptions of who I was, stating that she thought I was a certain way, being sexually forward, which is the complete opposite. As a person, I'm quite timid about these things, and overall, I feel like my relationship ended due to this factor of not being as sexually open as her preconceptions were of me. This is why I like Daisuke's social link so much, since I pretty much relate to it. Persona 4 has taught me many things about myself, and how I should live my life. It taught me to be happy about the moments I'm having now with my friends, laughing, having fun, and not worrying about how productive I could be, or how what I'm doing isn't helping the future, but it's creating fun memories that I can look back on that counts. To not worry about others' expectations, and to find my own definition of what it means to be a man, but more importantly, to be me. I'm very thankful that I got to play this game at such an impactful time in my life. If it wasn't for Persona 4, but Persona as a series, I probably wouldn't be the same. Inaba, the friends, the journey we shared, and all the ways we grew were all such a great experience that even after 4 playthroughs, it hits me every time. I'm thankful that it hasn't changed, because every now and then I can go on back to my younger self. So once again, it hasn't changed, but I have, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without Persona 4.
Oh, and just saying, I'm very sorry for this one.
Yummy. だけど I'm so sorry 忘れないよ大事なみんなと過ごした毎日 Never もう暗い闇も一人じゃないさ見つけ出すよ大事ななくしたものを Never もう君の声がきっとそう僕の導くよ